Welcome to a new video on my home automation and Node-RED series. I'm clearly not doing enough work because this is yet another work in progress video on something that I haven't finished, but this is going to be somewhat different because I actually got stuck in here. So let me quickly summarize what I wanted to do here. I wanted to do a GPS tracker. Not that you can't just go to AliExpress and buy a GPS tracker and have some cloud service which tracks your movement. But I thought, well, I can be smarter and I can do it on my own using Node-RED and not rely on any third parties, God knows who, with some servers up in the cloud to store my location data. I can do it safely, hopefully. The inspiration basically came from two different sources. First of all, I was talking to a friend who has a company car, and maybe just some sort of car where he needs to keep track of the places where he have gone and how much he has driven each day because of tax reason or some stupid reason. And he was asking if there is a solution that I know of where like a device which tracks the car's movement, and then it will automatically produce a report. I mean, of course, there is commercially available services for this one, and I thought, well, let me think about it. Like, I used an Android phone and a tasker for a lot of different things, and so this tasker can report its positions, send the data up to Node-RED, and then Node-RED can just store it, and then maybe at the end of the day run some logic which looks at the data, tries to figure out where the car has driven, where it has stopped, and maybe use that coordinates to geolocate the address, and then maybe create some sort of report. And so that was one of the use cases. And the other one was I was listening to radio, and they were talking about tracking your kid. And you probably have seen these commercially available, like sort of like smartwatches, which basically just track your devices. So they have a small SIM card and a GPS module, and they would just keep sending data up, and then you can have you can track your kids online, and also have lots of functions where you can define some areas, and then where they leave that certain area, then you will get an alarm. So I thought, well, maybe this is something cool. I should try doing something like that, and I have done a few parts of it. So I have the location being sent from my mobile phone, and I'm storing the data in Node-RED. I'm also displaying the data in the dashboard. As you can see, I found this really nice component. It's called the word map, if I'm correct. And the map, yeah, Node-RED contrib web word map. And I quite like it because there is, pretty much out of there. There is a very good documentation on what you can do with the word map, and you can embed it into your dashboard. You can use it in a separate tab in full screen, and there is all sorts of functions how you can send data over to this map, and that gets displayed as a map overlay. So for example, here I have selected a particular day, and then it plots all the data on that day onto the map. So you can see where I was, and I traveled, and I was driving down the highway, and then something happened here. I think there was a traffic jam in this area, so I have a little bit more data. And then I arrived to this city, and well, I was probably moving around in a city on foot. And the issue I have here is probably you can spot it already, is the data is really sparse. I mean, I get a coordinate every maybe 5 minutes or something like that. You can see the raw data here, well, 4 minutes, something like that. And I thought maybe getting data every couple of minutes is not going to be too bad, but actually it is, especially if you are in the city, because you can't really tell where you have been. The data is so coarse. I mean, come on, it must have taken like half an hour to get out of the city, and I have probably 5 or 6 data points. So this is not really good enough to tell where you have been and where you have stopped, and also it's not good enough to calculate your mileage either. And the reason this is happening because I'm using Tasker to provide the location updates from my phone. I mean, I'm not really into Android app development. And I thought, you know, this is something that you can do in Tasker as well, because you can set up a task, which I've created this tracker, which is basically an HTTP GET. So it goes to, it calls a URL on my Node-RED that I created, and it passes two parameters over: the device location and the device ID. So, you know, it's easy. I just create an HTTP in Node-RED, and then I just keep receiving the data. The problem is that the profile that you set up in Tasker is, I mean, I can easily create a profile which basically runs 24/7, but the minimum resolution is 2 minutes. So it can only send data every 2 minutes, and it seems that sometimes the data is not getting through, because you can, as you can see on the list, I'm not getting data every 2 minutes. But even 2 minutes is not, you know, it's not good enough. It's really, I mean, how much you travel in 2 minutes? If you are on a highway, that would be 2 kilometers. Well, in the city it would be less, but still, when I look at the map, it's just not good enough. So the real issue here is I would need a different method of collecting data on the phone and sending them in like a larger packet. Obviously, I don't want to call Node-RED every 10 seconds to send coordinates, but, you know, have an app to collect my travels, and then maybe, you know, send every hour or at the end of the day or whenever it gets connected to a Wi-Fi network. So the idea was that once the phone is on 3G, so it's not on a Wi-Fi, it will send the coordinates every, let's say, well, or it will collect the coordinates, and then once it connects to the Wi-Fi network, any Wi-Fi, that's the other task I've created, then it calls Node-RED with a different URL, and it basically says, well, I just connected to a Wi-Fi. Again, the idea being is that, you know, Wi-Fi, or the Wi-Fi network is a fixed location, so there's no point, you know, sending the data where you are, either at home or work or any other place where you know the Wi-Fi off. I thought it would be easier to determine an exact location based on the Wi-Fi that you have connected to, rather than trying to triangulate or, you know, geocode it from the GPS address. So that was the idea, and, you know, it's sort of working, but the data is just not good. And then until I have a good data, you know, good resolution, I didn't want to go into the additional functions like creating boundaries and setting up rules where I can get some notification if the phone enters the boundary or leaves the boundary. But other than that, the code that I have done so far, it's, you know, it's working fine. Like I have the two HTTP ins, one to receive the GPS coordinates, one to receive Wi-Fi connection details, and then it gets all stored in a database. And I also have this piece of flow where you either select a, you either select a specific date, or you can just say, you know, where I've been in the last 7 days, and it queries the database, and then based on the information, it just updates the map. So if I do that now, I should see 2 lines. Maybe it was later, but anyway, you see that I have a lot more points in the city, which basically comes from the last week when I've traveled around, gone to shops, and then, you know, various places work. So the map integration works, everything is fine. I just need to find a better way of sending the GPS data over. So if you happen to know any app which could do the things that I have explained, that you know about, or maybe you have written that app, then yeah, just let me know so I can continue with this GPS tracker. I'm not sure what I'm going to be used it for. I have this data collected for, I don't know, probably 1 or 2 months now at least. I don't even know how big the database is, which is storing all this information. But yeah, it is working as it is at the moment, but I would like to enhance it and finish it to the sort of the specs that I had in mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.